Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Richard Lewis here, ably assisted by Sam. Well, I say ably, but he is there in the background. You all right, Sam?
Yeah, good. But
Good. So this is going to be a video we've been promising for a while, but the story kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. Plus, we've been dealing with other things that were happening. But today's video is about Vulcun. Now, I don't want to necessarily point to any wrongdoing. I'll just say we're going to lay out the facts again, as always. You can make up your own mind. I'll let you know my own experiences with Vulcun, which I've always found them to be a company that always seems to be associated with dishonesty or duplicitousness or backdoor shadowy antics. We've seen this during the Exclusivity League where they were involved. I've seen this with the ways they finance some tournaments. If people do remember when Vulcun, their CEO, a guy called Ali Moitz, he went up against Athene, the popular streamer, head-to-head, and he actually admitted during a call designed to mediate between the two parties, he admitted, and it's on a YouTube video, we'll put the link in the description, to basically writing a cease and desist letter that contained false information. So this is not a company that has had a prestigious, pristine run through their involvement with esports, and they've had a lot of venture capital money. They've had a lot of opportunities to invest in the right things, and bizarrely, they always seem to take the money and spend it on fads, trends, things that don't have a huge longevity, that anybody who understood the nature of the business wouldn't invest venture capital money in them. They would actually hold off and be like, this is a fad, this is going to get regulated. And so we come to what we're going to talk about first of all, which is Vulcun coming out and having to deny, or rather having to admit that they attempted to buy CSGO Shuffle, but denied that they had any stake in any gambling site whatsoever. So this was published on PvP Live by Dustin Steiner, a journalist that I actually gave all of the Phantom Lord logs to in their entirety. And one of the stories that he wrote, and he wrote up 3 or 4 off the back of the logs, was that the website that Phantom Lord ran, CSGO Shuffle, was subject to interest from Vulcun. Now, that isn't a surprise to me, because I know from my own experiences and talking to people in the scene that Vulcun were looking at purchasing gambling sites. They were very much interested in that. They had talks with Easy Skins and things like that, for example, which we revealed in another video. So this doesn't surprise me. That this was their latest thrust that they wanted to spend their money on. What did surprise me was when this story was published, the Vulcun representative, Ali Moitz, it's your boy Ali Moitz, he came out again and said that they explored the idea of buying Shuffle, but never issued a formal term sheet offer or other written offer. They denied owning any stake, major or minor, in any CSGO skin site of any kind whatsoever. And that's a very bold statement. That is a very bold denial. And what we were very quickly told by multiple people was that that wasn't true, that that was actually a lie. Now, certainly we said a few things in a previous video, and we just want to show you that they were indeed authentic, that they weren't just inventions or anything that we just, pulled out of thin air. One of the things we specifically talked about is how Vulcun, when they were trying to buy Easy Skins, they leveraged some of the people they were sponsoring to basically either do a deal on the cheap with Easy Skins or to take all of the people that Easy Skins were going to sponsor, so the rival sites didn't get any exposure through people that they were also working with. And I remember talking about this with Henry G, the owner and founder of Easy Skins at the time. It was an incredibly frustrating process for him. Now, we talked about this on the video, and Hatton came out and confirmed it on TwitLonger for us, which we're incredibly grateful for. And you can see that he says, can confirm that Vulcun were trying to pressure me to break ties with my Easy Skins partnership back in 2015. I was partnered with both at the time, and out of the blue, Vulcun offered me a significantly higher sponsorship deal to gamble exclusively on CSGO Jackpot, but I politely declined as I didn't feel comfortable just jumping ship after having built a strong working relationship with Henry during the site's early days. In the end, I was able to maintain my partnership with Vulcun doing fantasy bets as well as work with Easy Skins without any conflicts between the two contracts. Now, key wording here. Did you notice it, Sam?
What's that?
I'm sure you did, mate.
Fucking hell.
Says, well, looking fucking hell. Right, all right.
Find the shit needle in the haystack. It's all
right.
pretty big,
Key wording. He said, out of the blue, Vulcun offered me a significantly higher sponsorship deal to gamble exclusively on CSGO Jackpot. So already we can see here a very strong business tie. CSGO Jackpot didn't go to Hatton and say, hey, you want to exclusively gamble on us? And he said, hey, I'm with Vulcun, so you might want to talk to them. Vulcun went to Hatton and said, hey, you're going to exclusively gamble on CSGO Jackpot, which leads me to believe that I suppose you could theorize CSGO Jackpot went to Vulcun first, and then Vulcun disseminated it and passed it down to Hatton. Or maybe Vulcun were like, hey, we want you to exclusively gamble on this website, and we're not going to tell you why. And it's definitely not because we own any part of it, any stake or anything else. Right. So what people were saying was that they purchased CSGO Jackpot, and immediately it was clear they hadn't tried to hide having a relationship with that website. So keep in mind they denied owning any stake in any CSGO skin site of any kind. Well, on July 20th, 2015, they announced a strategic partnership. They said, today we're announcing a strategic partnership with CSGO Jackpot. We believe that CSGO Jackpot represents an entertaining and engaging new outlet for participants and viewers to try and win more in-game items for themselves while having fun. Here's what Ali Moitz, Vulcun shot caller, what the fuck's that? Like, what's the business?
I think he's trying to be some sort of edgy gaming guy, like shot caller.
Is that it, really?
I think so.
So grotesquely, dare I say it, unprofessional, right?
Grim.
Yeah. Here's what he had to say. Their wonderful shot caller had to say about the partnership. We're very impressed with the CSGO Jackpot team. They were really the pioneers of the Jackpot model. We look forward to working closely with them towards a shared mission of making CSGO and esports more fun. Chris Martin from CSGO Jackpot had this to share. We're excited to have this opportunity to team up with Vulcun. Vulcun has the capacity to help us expand our product's audience and create an even more interesting product for everyone to enjoy. For media inquiries, please contact bd@vulcun.com. Now, I think at this point we can safely say they were two separate entities. There's virtually no overlap that we can see prior to this, prior to the announcement of the strategic partnership stroke purchase. CSGO Jackpot was an entity that existed in Portugal. Vulcun were an already established company that had already had several failed ventures, and they were based in California. Okay, so let's take a look at the CSGO Jackpot website. First off, it has a directory named Vulcun within it. If you click on the CSGO Jackpot, we've got a link here. Again, we'll put it in the description. You click on that, it goes through to a shot of the logo. It's an assets, and it's Vulcun. So there's obviously been some Vulcun-related assets present on their domain. That, again, okay, right, kind of a stretch, right? Don't worry, keep watching. Then when you right-click on csgojackpot.com and click View Source, and you can see all the HTML classes, and they're prefixed with VL dash, which is an abbreviation of Vulcun. You simply can click Source, Control-F, type in VL with a little hyphen, or the word Vulcun, and you can find out for yourself. And we actually did this. I got Sam to go in and do it and record it. And what you'll also see in the video is, if you go to csgojackpot.com in Chrome and you press F12 and you paste this certain command in console, which is the affiliate link modal, it's got some bits in there, that command basically displays a hidden pop-up, which CSGO Jackpot had, and it was for Vulcun. And it's not being used these days. And yes, the command is affiliate, but the text on that pop-up says play our jackpot or mini pot now and earn free gold on Vulcan and CSGO Jackpot. So the key point here is CSGO Jackpot wouldn't advertise a competitor's jackpot if they were only affiliated. Why would you do that? It's the same service. So you can see that for yourself in this video. Now, on the 22nd of September, one of the original CSGO Jackpot owners, Chris Martin, he tweeted out that they left the project. And this obviously is important to note because if they're leaving the project, it implies someone's going to take over. You can see the tweet says, the original CSGO Jackpot founders have left the project, me included. Me and my more than a decade best friend, Dipper, will work on some new projects. And you can see people saying, yeah, you did a great job, rah, rah, rah. And indeed, it was a successful site, and it was a pioneering site, actually. In terms of history, it was actually one of the very earlier sites that pioneered this way of doing things. And I know from talking to former employees, they were clearing something like $20,000, $40,000 a day, and it was a lot harder to cash out back then. So they wanted a business partner to come in and take over things because they were having a much harder time monetizing the skins that they had and monetizing their business. That's where Vulcan get involved. Now, again, you're like, this is all pretty thin, Richard. This is all pretty thin. So let's just say we've got this strategic partnership announced in July. We've got Chris Martin saying him and all the original founders have left in September. What could possibly be happening in the gaps between? Well, what we're going to show you now is some incredible connections between CSGO Jackpot and Vulcan and show you all of the ties which make it look incredibly plausible that indeed Vulcan had taken over the day-to-day running of the business. So let's show you a website of somebody called Justin Rands. Now, Justin Rands is a web UI and branding designer offering pixel-perfect visual design for mobile and web. And don't take it from me, take it from his website. It's a nice little website. We clicked on there, and you'll see there's a little treasure chest. And just before you click on that treasure chest, you will see the Vulcan logo, which, by the way, I don't know if anyone from Star Trek has seen what's happening here, that the Vulcan salute from Star Trek is being used as a logo. Someone might want to get on that. You know, I'm not too sure how I'd feel about it. Whatever. Neither here nor there. You can see the little Spock thing going on, and you click on the chest, and it even says the word Vulcan as you click on it. Now it says, Vulcan was my most recent company. We moved fast and broke often. Sounds about right. I was lucky enough to be involved in web development, mobile design, and illustration. And you can see there's some nice little interesting, doodles. And you scroll down, and what's the first thing that comes up here? CSGO Jackpot app. Vulcan partnered with CSGO Jackpot in July, and I was put in charge of design for it. Sticking to the site's original design/features, me and another developer moved fast to be able to get this on the iTunes and Google Play in 3 weeks. And then you scroll a little bit further down, and you can see phones. And just there, that's what it looks like on a mobile phone. Brilliant. There's somebody using their hands. Brilliant. Love that. Then you scroll down a little bit more and you can see Vulcan app. And before Vulcan fell out of paid fantasy this past fall, they were planning on releasing a mobile app for their services. These are the first designs for the first release. I stuck strictly to the website's color palette and font choices. And you can see here he is talking about a Vulcan app. Okay, so straight away we can see that this chap had a lot of ties. He says he worked for Vulcan, and his job while he was working at Vulcan was to take over the development of the CSGO Jackpot app as part of a partnership. All right, so who else have we got? Now we're gonna introduce you to somebody called Morgan Lee. And if you go to his Twitter, you will see that Morgan Lee is somebody who is a web designer, front-end developer. You can see straight away that there's retweets from CSGO Jackpot on October 2015, still in his timeline, talking about that same mobile app that was developed for Android and iPhone. There it is. Now, if you also look, as we did, at Morgan Lee's Steam community ID, and indeed all of these guys obviously have Steam IDs, and some of them are up to date and some of them aren't. You can see that if you look down at Morgan's groups, he is in Vulcun and CSGO Jackpot both together. He's in the admin group for CSGO Jackpot, and he's in the official Vulcun group. And it might look like, okay, this is still pretty thin, Richard. These people obviously would associate because they've worked on projects together. But again, just hear me out. We're going to tie all this together at the end. You'll also see some friends, which are names that are certainly going to come up a little bit later on. So, next chap that's up, Mike Lee. Now, what I want to do is show you two Steam accounts here. So this is Mike Lee. This is his first Steam account, Mike LE. And you will see, well, he's not in any groups. He's got some friends whose names are familiar. And you will see that he uses the name Boris the Bullet Dodger. He's in San Francisco, California, which is where Vulcan's offices are. And if you drop down from here on his name, you will see that he's, got Mikado, Courtois, Valamorgulis, Hobro, and Boris the Bullet Dodger as his names. Great names. Love them. Love those names.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they're all pretty good, right? Boris the Bullet Dodger, I like it. It's not as good as Boris the Blade from Snatch, but it's good, right? So then we go to Jackpot Boris, another Steam account, okay? So Jackpot Boris, I wonder what website that could be affiliated with, right? So keep in mind, again, this is Boris from the United States, CSGOJackpot.com. You're like, Boris might be a popular name. Hey, but he's called Boris the Blade, Boris the Bullet Dodger. And he's in the CSGO Jackpot admin group and CSGOJackpot.com, and he has CSGOJackpot.com in his name. Now, that's interesting, right? Because that looks to be that Mike Lee guy, right? Same accounts, same similar names, same friends. So you go to Mike Lee's LinkedIn page, and what do we have? Okay, well, Mike Lee, or Le Mike, as he's called, is the product manager at Vulcan. No mention of being a CSGO Jackpot employee whatsoever. Now, let me theorize here, Sam, if you will indulge me. Will you indulge me?
Of course, man. Go ahead.
If you were working on something full-time like that, and it was a separate business, it would definitely make sense that you would refer to that separate business separately when talking about your experience. That makes sense, correct? Yeah. Okay. So the fact that he only talks about having worked for Vulcan, despite the fact that we can see he has some involvement with CSGO Jackpot, could certainly point to it being a subsidiary or a separate arm of a company, quite possibly owned by that company, right? That's a reasonable assumption. Okay, good. I thought it made sense. I just wanted to check with you. You are my compass in these dark and murky esports waters. Now, okay, so these are the developers. These are the guys at Vulcan that we're starting to see increasingly have links to CSGO Jackpot. Next guy I'm going to introduce you to from Vulcan, Sam. Wonderful chap. Looks like a nice guy. You go to LinkedIn. Mataza Hussein. Mataza Hussein, Vulcan.com in San Francisco. Summoner of Pixels, he says there. And he talks about what he does at Vulcan and all their achievements, going right back to their LCS days, because they did indeed used to be a League of Legends team. They basically took XDG, who were incredibly successful out of nowhere, and made it to Worlds, and they ran that brand into the ground, basically. So this is Mataza Hussein, who works for Vulcan. Now, this name is incredibly, interesting because he definitely works at Vulcan. No doubt about it. You go to this website here, which is angel.co, which again, that's talking about the venture capital funding and work at Vulcan. And you scroll down, you scroll down, you scroll down, you get to the team. There he is again, Murtaza Hussain, serial entrepreneur. Ali Moitz is there, all these names. So again, absolute proof that this isn't another guy who's accidentally working for Vulcan, and this is the same dude. So then when you do a who is, and it's incredible actually, I'm amazed like how much a who is search can reveal, Sam. I had no idea. We've done this on a couple of videos, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Where like an actual who is search
to slip up.
Yeah, exactly. It very is an easy place to that you can slip up. We saw it with Joris when we were doing the Phantom Lord story, and I think it's reasonable to say we see it here. So we brought up this who is search, and you will see this is for the CS:GO Jackpot domain, and you can see CS:GO Jackpot, CS:GO Jackpot, and domain owner is someone called Murtaza Hussain. Registered at 930 Montgomery Street, San Francisco, California, zip code 94111. Now, you know what happens if you put that address into Google?
Tell me, bud.
No, this is good. This is real good. You're going to like this. If you do that, right, and you put that into Google, I'm literally doing it now, okay, just so I can show you what comes up first of all. And there we are. Right, so that goes into Google. Would you fucking Adam and Eve it, mate?
What is it? What?
It's Vulcan's offices. It's their corporate office.
Oh, wow.
That's wild, isn't it? Right? So it's got to be the same Murtaza Hussain, right? But why does he own that domain? Bit crazy.
Strange.
And, he's not just the domain owner. He's the admin contact. He's the technical contact. He's the billing contact. The registrar is based in Los Angeles, California, right? For a website and a business that was made by people from Portugal. And interestingly enough, just to cement the connections, primary name server, Diogo Ramanos. Great name. Love that. Now, Diogo Ramanos turns out is a chap, if you go to GitHub, his cool on name is White Eagle PT. And you can see a picture of him. And again, there it is, Diogo Ramanos, that we've seen as the primary name server. So again, bizarrely, as if this was all some crazy fucked up conspiracy, like it's like triangles everywhere, homie. Right? On Twitter, one of the dudes that was a founder of CSGO Jackpot, White Eagle, mate. And just to underline it, he retweeted on July 15th, #sorry, referring to an article written on unicorn.com. CSGO Jackpot was introduced. This was the site to start it all. It created a whole new craze. So again, and he's apologizing for it. So obviously had something to do with it, right? There we go. So that's that White Eagle dude. So he's named on that who is as well. So we see these ties. I think at the point where the purchase was made, probably what happened was that Vulcan took over the site. Murtaza Hussain was the guy with the name. He takes over the domain, the admin, the technical, the billing points of contact, but the primary name server never got updated for whatever reason and stayed with this Diogo Ramanos guy, who obviously doesn't work for Vulcan, but did work for CSGO Jackpot. You with me so far?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. Good. Right. So, doesn't end there, though. I mean, I think these are already some very interesting ties that would need to be explained. Okay? If you didn't own or have a controlling stake in the website, yet you've got all these employees that seem to have these ties. But it doesn't end there, guys. Like, seriously. So you go to iTunes. And I'm a big fan of iTunes. Love iTunes. Apple products up the wazoo, Macs, iPhones. It's great, right? And naturally, if you want an app You know, you're going to put it on iTunes and people can, you know, go there and download apps for their phones and everything else. And we know that this was a project they were very much into. So CSGO Jackpot has its own app. Obviously, we know that. And here it is on iTunes. And it was put there by someone called Shah Udi. Shah Udi. And you can see some terrible reviews. 2-star, 1-star, 1-star. But overall, I think the current version has 1-star across 8 ratings, but you can see previous versions were high with 4 stars. So certainly don't want to cast any disparagement there on them about the efficiency of their app. But Shah Udi, okay, so there's a name definitely to remember. Now, when you go to this LinkedIn page, Coco Echo, right? There's a guy whose name is real similar, all right, called Shah Cha Audi. Shah Cha Audi, not Shah Udi, but Shah Cha Audi. And if you look at his business history, he's the senior mobile developer for Vulcun, and he's been there a year. So, again, I'm probably reaching, Sam. I'm probably reaching here. I think it's the same guy. Name's incredibly similar, develops mobile apps for a living, works at Vulcun, CSGO Jackpot app that we know was developed, also involving some Vulcun employees. I don't know, is it a coincidence?
Seems to line up pretty well.
Yeah, all right then. Okay, good. So another Vulcun employee developing the mobile app for CSGO Jackpot. All right, now, this one, this took some digging. Now, you'll have heard of this guy. If you're ever involved with CSGO Jackpot, you'll have heard of this guy, Action Bastard. Great name. But he's come up a few times, right? When we've been looking at all these other skins gambling sites and everything else that's going on, the name Action Bastard recurs. This is his Steam profile. Action Bastard, CSGOJackpot.com. You can drop down, have a look at his other names. You know, it's Action Bastard, CSGO Jackpot. It's all there. You know, be careful of scammers. He's got a level 121 in rep. Does a lot of skins trading, skins dealing, has a very good inventory, of course, and you can see has some friends in his profile that we've already met and already talked about, and there's some other guys that overlapped and whose names come up. Now, he's only in the CSGO Jackpot admin group. And interestingly enough, since we were sent all this information, and since Esports Observer published a story of their own, he is no longer in some groups that he was in. Which may or may not relate to Vulcun. So Action Bastard was a slippery little eel. Now, again, it's super strange to me that CSGO Jackpot, this company from Portugal, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, but Action Bastard is based in San Francisco, California, where we know Vulcun have their addresses. So that's really interesting to me. But, you know, it's just some guy called Action Bastard. So who could he be? Well, you have to kind of really do a lot of Googling and fucking around to get to this one. But when you Google Action Bastard and you start going through some Steam community IDs, you find an account where it was at one point the URL was called Carl_Action Bastard. So Carl Action Bastard, we verified it. This is the same guy. And then we did some more kind of Googling and looking around, and indeed, you find this. You get to Vulcun_Carl. Action Bastard, CSGO Jackpot, Steam Community ID, Vulcun_Carl. So this guy has Carl recurring in his name, and now Vulcun in his name, but it all goes back to that CSGO Jackpot name on his Steam account. Okay, so again, more ties, right? More ties. But with this guy, we kind of did want to go all out, right? Just to make sure, because this is effectively like not the face, because obviously he doesn't have a face in that sense, but he's one of the guys who goes out there. He does the adminning. He's very well known in the skins trading community as being for CSGO Jackpot. So we did a Steam ID lookup on him, and this can be a flawed tool from time to time. You'll see the Steam ID. You'll see the URL with Blaine 0002. Just remember that for a moment. And you'll see the name Vulcun.com. Action Bastard. These IDs all mirror up, and it goes through to the same profile. And you'll also see the real name, Carl. Right? So, what next? Well, if you go to this, we also found, while Googling and fucking around Steam URLs and everything else, now Action Bastard, who you can see below, Vulcan_Carl, if you look at the one just above it, Blaine 0002, that confirms the overlap between all of these, all of this. The name changes, the accounts. So we now know it's that guy. Now, would you believe it if I told you, Sam, that I think we've found out who Action Bastard probably is?
Yeah, I would. I think
so. I'm gonna say probably. I'm gonna say
allegedly,
probably.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say probably and allegedly, and I'm gonna allow just a little bit of leeway on this one. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna let people make up their own minds. Again, that's what we do these videos for. Informational purposes. You can make up your minds. But you go to LinkedIn.com, there's a guy called Carl Jacoba. And he's based in San Francisco, California. And do you know what company he works for? He works for Vulcan. And do you know what he does? He's a software engineer, mate.
Jesus, what a wild coincidence.
It's crazy. Now, I know Carl's a common name, but again, a software engineer at Vulcan, a guy who we know has had Vulcan in his name, and I had a little scroll through LinkedIn. I couldn't find another Carl with a K in Vulcan. So it would lead me to believe, and I would certainly apologize if I was wrong about this, but I think Carl Jacoba is Action Bastard. That's what I believe. Just to add a few little sprinkles onto this glorious meal, this wonderful smorgasbord of information we've served up. If you go to CSGOJackpot.com and you go to their terms of service, obviously their terms of service tell you right down at the bottom in law and jurisdiction, these terms and conditions will be governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of Portugal, and any disputes relating to these terms and conditions will be subject to the exclusive jurisdiction of the courts of Portugal. Now, it's very strange to me that this is still on that site, because all of these people that operate on this site, the domain owner, the point of contact for billing issues even, is based in San Francisco. And it seems to me that all the people who work on it from San Francisco, and it seems to me that Vulcan, who are looking increasingly like they may or may not be a owner, joint owner, or parent company, they're not in Portugal. They're in San Francisco too. So it's very interesting. Perhaps this could be the reason why you would want to tell a little porky pie, tell a little fib, because obviously if the website was owned by you and you were still trying to pretend it was in Portugal and all the laws of Portugal applied in Portugal, but actually everyone who worked on it was American and the owners were based in America, that might be problematic. I mean, only might be. Understand, nothing's been decided in these cases yet. So, another interesting, just again, coincidence, obviously, is all just coincidental, was that, think about it. They have this relationship with the site in Portugal. Well, Vulcan's not really known for its team sponsorships anymore. But if you do Google Vulcan CSGO, and all of this is about CSGO, remember, they have a team. I was really surprised. I've never heard of them. Never seen them do anything. But that team, Vulcan CSGO, you know where they're from, Sam?
Portugal?
Portugal, mate.
Wow.
How fucking odd. Like, you're Vulcan, you're based in America, you've got all this venture capital, you're going to sponsor a team. We're going to pick this team from Portugal of older players, newer players. I think they've even got a female on the roster. They're not. It clearly isn't a serious competitive entity, which is why I'd never heard of them. So why would Vulcan sponsor a team in Portugal? I don't know. It just blows my mind, really. I mean, I can only think that whoever does the scouting for Vulcan hasn't been doing his homework. So just for future advice, Portugal, wonderful place to visit. Love Lisbon. And of course, the works of Pessoa. Wonderful place. Great friendly people. Just hasn't produced a meaningful Counter-Strike team in some time. Just hasn't. So for future reference, Vulcun, if you want to sponsor people, maybe look a little bit closer to home. And equally as well, just to kind of bring this in, we've shown all these connections now. And obviously people were still a little bit confused. And I can get why people would be confused. So you look at Chris Martin PT's Twitter, which is it's a roller coaster ride. Everything he tweets is so relevant and fresh. On the 14th of November, he said, guys, really, stop asking me about CSGO Jackpot. All the founders left. CSGO Jackpot has new owners. Please talk to them. Doesn't say who they are, though. So how would I talk to them, right? But I could probably hazard a guess at this stage. I'd feel comfortable taking a guess, which is all it would be. Now, just in case anybody is under any illusion, we actually interviewed some former Vulcun employees, some current Vulcun employees, and they confirmed on background that, yeah, we did a deal. And they said this deal was in the seven figures, Sam. Which for a website, potentially making 20,000, 40,000 a day, that doesn't seem a bad deal on paper. But these people don't want to come forward because, as they've seen before with Ali Moit threatening to sue Athene, they do like to throw lawsuits around. I'm pretty sure that when this video goes out, they'll threaten to sue me. They very much know who I am. I remember being sent one of their tournament decks for Hearthstone, and the joke was that every player was a picture of me in their decks. And this was when I was calling them out consistently. So they know who I am. So I wouldn't be surprised if by the time you've watched this video, they're already threatening a cease and desist or trying to do a DMCA takedown or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. That's very much their modus operandi. But I can say, obviously, we will not reveal who those people are. We will preserve that anonymity which they requested, but multiple people have said yes, they did a deal. In fact, multiple people who were sponsored by Vulcun have also come forward and said we were kind of in the know when they were doing that purchase of CSGO Jackpot. It was very clear that it was going to be a purchase, that they were going to own a stake, and that we were going to gamble on that site accordingly. And I imagine that if anything, any further lies were to be told, I don't know. In my experience, I think one or two people might come out with a few more smoking guns. Now, just to show that there was some dubious stuff going on, and this was important, I thought, to talk about to round out the video. Just, again, this is probably why you'd want to tell some fibs and cover up a few things. One of the former employees messaged me. And said that, they left the company because they had some ethical concerns about some of the stuff that was going on there. And this actually involved some of the ex-employees of CSGO Jackpot. Actually, he named specifically Chris Martin, which is it, by the way, is that the same name as the dude from Coldplay?
I think so.
Yeah, it's been wrecking my head saying that. Because all I can think about is that fucking god-awful dance he was doing at the Super Bowl. Just fucking wrecks my mind. Anyway, are you checking it?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Good. We would have just cut that out, though. Well, so this former employee, he sent me an email. And basically what had been going on was that people were putting money into pots. And the pots weren't recognizing all of the money that went in, and people were losing their skins, and yet what would happen is that the skins would go out from them, but the winners wouldn't get all the value of all the skins that were in. So this employee, who was a senior employee at the time, he sent an email up to the owners and said, look, dudes, and we'll bring that email up for you. He said, I've been looking into this, and this seems to be happening a lot. And you can see here, Chris, because it's Chris Martin. He goes, I have been seeing an influx of tickets with people complaining of skins being accepted by the bots and not going into the jackpot. At first, I passed these off as scam attempts, but recently it happened to a streamer we are sponsoring on screen. Here is his deposit, and I think that image link still works, actually. There's no need to bring that up. and a link to the VOD on Twitch when it happened. The incident happened around, whatever. That VOD's not there anymore because of the Twitch rules. And it says, unfortunately, there is no sound, but you can clearly see that he wasn't on the jackpot. Also, if you add up all of the value in the jackpot, it comes to $840 when the wheel says $798. If on-screen's deposit had been entered, the total value placed would be $920, a lot more than what the wheel actually says. And he lists ticket numbers from where this had happened again and again and again. Admittedly, some of these tickets lack information. However, there is a clear pattern here. I think this needs more looking into. I know how I would feel if the trade had been accepted, but there was no evidence of me being entered into the pot. Thanks, Chris. Hopefully you can make some sense of this. And I'll tell you, Chris didn't give a fuck. He didn't reply, he didn't respond, and eventually that employee just left the company because what he felt was that they didn't care about customer relations whatsoever at CSGOJackpot. Now, I got in touch with that employee and asked him a few follow-up questions, and he said, actually, if I had to theorize what was happening there, he would say, I could only guess that the owners were or staff were taking those skins, that they were literally just being used as part of a rake that wasn't announced or communicated to the people that used the service. And I'll just read you word for word what he said here. I wish I could say I knew where the skins were going. If I had to take an educated guess, I would say that they were either being sent as winnings to other people or just being withdrawn by the owners as part of the rake. All I can say for certain is that even after me presenting them with 14 individual cases, they didn't really care if something was going wrong, even when one of the people missing skins was somebody we were sponsoring. So that is just an interesting footnote I just wanted to add to the CSGO jackpot story because obviously I think some people may have been scammed. Who knew? Who knew? Skins don't just disappear, Sam.
Oh, no, they do. It's fine. Just got lost in the code, mate. That happens. It's a thing.
So to end this video, I think we've presented a lot of evidence, and again, there's obviously more to come. There's a lot of people within the Vulcun hierarchy, people who were sponsored by Vulcun, that obviously all know that this deal went ahead, that there was a purchase of something made, be it a controlling interest, a stake, or a complete ownership takeover, and this has been denied, and it's been denied publicly. And what's interesting is nobody would have cared. That's the crazy thing for me in all of this. Literally, nobody would have cared, but Vulcun was so keen to distance themselves, they're now caught in what appears to me, based on the evidence, to be a very obvious lie. So I think what I would say is if I was Vulcun, I'd go back and I'd claim to have been misquoted, or I would come out and clarify exactly what your relationship with CSGO Jackpot is, because if you don't, when the storms start coming down, the truth's obviously going to come out. And that lie is all of a sudden going to take on a very darker complexion. Right now, it's just a little white lie. In the future, who knows? So that's my advice for anyone from Vulcun when they inevitably watch this video. Sam, any final thoughts?
Don't lie about shit nobody cares about anyway.
Excellent stuff. And just to say thanks, we had people help us out. We had a chap called Eddie Wally come forward and help us out with a lot of the research. We had to double check a lot of things. Obviously been incredibly busy with E-League, and we do have people who do from time to time do our research and do our digging. It can't all be about me and Sam, so big shout out to them. Thanks for watching this video. We'll be back on the next one. Take care.